Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're plunging into, well, a really foundational philosophy of personal effectiveness, a framework that's guided millions for decades now.
Yeah, it's quite something.
We are talking about the principles behind the 7 Habits, which, it's hard to believe, came out originally way back in 1989.
That long ago, and still incredibly relevant.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's unpack this. We've got some source materials here that really distill the essence of Stephen Covey's work. Our mission today for you listening is a deep one. We want to cut through, 35 plus years of self-help noise, all the marketing hype, and really pull out the pure, powerful nuggets, the core ideas that define long-term success, building character, principled living. This is more than just like a checklist.
Definitely not just a checklist.
It's a shortcut to understanding the underlying principles, the things that actually govern sustained effectiveness, way beyond just temporary strategies or tricks.
And what's really fascinating, right from the start, the sources hammer home this foundational shift Covey was pushing for. He wasn't really interested in the quick fixes, the surface level stuff that was pretty common back then.
Right.
And this leads straight into probably the most critical distinction in the whole book. The difference between what he called the personality ethic and the character ethic.
Okay, yeah, that is the essential starting point, and it's something I think gets glossed over a bit today. So what exactly is this personality ethic that the sources argue just isn't enough for real lasting success?
Well, the personality ethic, which apparently really took off in the 20th century, it focuses on the external. It's all about techniques,
Techniques like?
like public speaking tips, positive thinking exercises, working on your charisma, how to influence people. They're essentially tools designed to improve how you look to others, polishing the surface.
Gotcha. Optimizing the facade, basically.
Exactly. And the sources are fair. They acknowledge these tools can have some value. But, and this is the key, they're just not sufficient on their own. Not for deep, lasting success.
I see. So you could learn how to, give a great handshake,
Yeah.
smile perfectly, but if underneath that polish you lack integrity or you're just not reliable.
That performance is eventually going to crack. It won't hold up under pressure, especially in important relationships or challenging situations.
Makes sense.
So the character ethic, conversely, argues for a totally different approach. It's inside out. It says that true, sustained success, particularly in relationships, has to come from these deeply ingrained principles. Things like integrity, humility, fidelity, courage, justice, the fundamental virtues, really. And the core insight, is that you just can't fake these things long term.
Right.
If you're relying only on charm, the personality ethics stuff, to kind of mask incompetence or untrustworthiness, your potential for building deep, sustainable collaboration is always going to be limited. It's capped.
So we're talking about building a solid foundation, not just slapping on a new coat of paint every few years.
Precisely. Character is the foundation. Personality might be the paint, but it needs something solid underneath.
Okay, that distinction feels absolutely critical. It sets the stage for why we're diving into habits focused on character, not just quick tips. So, building on that, our source material then clarifies that effectiveness itself isn't just one thing. It's described as a critical balance.
Yes, absolutely. Covey's framework establishes that effectiveness hinges on two components that are completely inseparable. They have to work together: character and competence.
All right, we've sort of defined character, that inner adherence to principles, integrity. So how does competence fit in, and why is the balance so crucial?
Well, competence is, having the necessary skills, the technical abilities, the practical know-how, the intelligence, the ability to actually execute and get things done, achieve goals.
Which sounds essential, obviously.
It is essential. But the sources are very clear with this caution. Skills without character, competence without integrity, are profoundly insufficient for true shared success. Think about it.
Yeah.
Imagine a brilliant surgeon, incredibly competent, top of their field. But maybe they lack integrity. Maybe they cut corners on safety protocols, or they're dishonest with patients or colleagues.
Right, that technical brilliance is undermined.
Completely. They might have short-term successes, but ultimately they'll destroy trust. They could harm people, ruin their reputation, damage the institution. Their competence becomes almost dangerous without the character to guide it ethically.
So the goal isn't just to be smart or skilled, it's to be trustworthy. Competence might get you in the door.
But character keeps you in the room and allows you to build something lasting with others.
Exactly.
Okay. And connecting this back to the overall structure of the 7 habits, this balance you mentioned, character and competence, it's reflected right away in how the habits are organized, isn't it? What the source calls the private-public progression. Spot on. This progression is key to the whole framework. It dictates the order of mastery. It's hierarchical, like you said. You really can't skip steps effectively.
Right, so explain that flow.
Okay, so the sources define the first 3 habits, habits 1, 2, and 3, as the private victories. These are all focused inwardly on self-mastery.
Getting your own house in order first.
Pretty much. The goal here is achieving independence, becoming self-disciplined, self-aware, principle-centered in your own life, and only after that internal foundation is reasonably solid.
Reasonably solid, okay. Not perfect.
Not perfect, no,
Yeah.
but solid enough. Only then can you successfully move outward to the next 3 habits, habits 4, 5, and 6. These are the public victories, and they focus on interdependence, effective relationships, collaboration, communication.
Okay, but I can imagine someone listening might think, does this mean I have to put all my team projects or relationship goals on hold until I've somehow perfectly mastered myself?
Yeah.
That sounds isolating, maybe.
That's a really important question and a common concern. The sources suggest it's not about achieving perfection before you interact with others. It's about achieving sufficient self-mastery to be reliable, to be trustworthy.
Efficient meaning.
Meaning you can generally manage yourself, your commitments, your emotions. The core principle is this. You can't build healthy, lasting interdependence if you're still fundamentally dependent on others for your own validation, your motivation, or your basic stability.
Ah, okay, so if I'm constantly looking to others to make me feel okay, or to tell me what to do,
Then your attempts at collaboration, at building win-win relationships, they're going to be inherently weakened. They'll be tainted by neediness, inconsistency, or maybe manipulation. It comes down to promises. If I can't reliably make and keep a promise to myself, like getting up on time or controlling my temper, a private victory.
Right.
How can you possibly rely on a significant promise I make to you, which is a public victory? The trust isn't there because the self-mastery isn't there.
the analogy I've heard is, you can't really contribute effectively to the team boat race if you haven't even learned how to paddle your own canoe reliably. You might just capsize everyone else.
That's a good way to put it. Self-mastery is the training ground. It's where you build the strength and reliability needed for the bigger game of interdependence. So, yeah, the journey starts inside and works its way out.
Okay, so with that structure clear, private victories first, let's dive into them. Habits 1, 2, and 3. These are about establishing that independence, building personal integrity, really cultivating the foundational character we need.
All right, habit 1, the big starting point. Be proactive. And like you hinted at earlier, this gets misunderstood a lot. People think it just means being busy or taking initiative.
Yeah, like being energetic or aggressive, maybe.
Right. But the source defines it much more profoundly. It's about taking full responsibility for your own life, specifically for your choices and your responses, regardless of what's happening around you, your external conditions.
So it's not about controlling what happens, because we often can't. It's about controlling your response to what happens. And the opposite, the default mode maybe, is being reactive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The reactive person, according to the source, is driven by feelings, circumstances, conditions, the environment. Their mood depends on the weather or how people treat them. They use deterministic language.
Like what?
I can't do that because I have to do this. If only my boss wasn't such a jerk, there's nothing I can do. It's language that essentially gives away power and responsibility.
Blaming external factors.
Precisely. But the proactive person recognizes that fundamental human freedom, the space between stimulus and response. In that space lies our power to choose our response, based on our values, not just our impulses or conditions.
Okay, that's the principle.
Yeah.
But how do you make that practical? This is where the source introduces that really key tool, right? The circle of influence versus the circle of concern.
Yes, this is hugely practical. You see these diagrams sometimes, the two circles, the circle of concern. That's huge. It contains everything that might worry you or take up mental energy.
Global politics, the economy, what other people think of you, past mistakes.
Your coworkers' annoying habits, traffic, the weather. It's vast. And we can spend enormous amounts of emotional and mental energy worrying and complaining about things in this circle. But the reality is we have little or no direct control over most of it.
It's where reactive energy goes to die, basically.
It's a massive energy drain. And focusing there feels, well, sometimes it feels weirdly validating, like you're engaged with big issues, but it's fundamentally unproductive because you can't act effectively there.
Right. Complaining feels like doing something, but it isn't.
Exactly. Now, the circle of influence, that's much smaller. At least initially. This is the area where your choices and actions can make a direct difference.
Okay, so what's in there?
Things like your attitude today, The effort you put into your work, the skills you choose to develop, how you treat your family, the promises you make and keep, your health habits, your personal organization, the specific positive actions you take, things you can actually do something about.
Things within your control.
Yes. And here's the crucial analysis from the sources. Proactive people focus their time, their energy, their thoughts almost exclusively on their circle of influence. They work on the things they can change.
And what happens when you do that?
Two really powerful things happen. First, you start getting tangible results. You make progress, you solve problems you can solve, you feel more in control because you are more in control of your actions.
Okay, that makes sense. What's the second thing?
The second thing is fascinating. Your circle of influence actually begins to expand. As you become more effective, more reliable, more responsible within your current circle, people notice. They trust you more. You gain influence naturally. Your ability to impact things grows.
So it's not static. By focusing inward on what you can control, you slowly gain more outward influence. That's kind of that aha moment, isn't it?
I think it is. Focusing on the circle of concern, on what you can't change, actually shrinks your perceived power and effectiveness.
Yeah.
It breeds helplessness. But focusing intensely on what you can change, even if it seems small initially, systematically grows your personal power, your scope, your influence.
And this isn't about being pushy or demanding influence.
Not at all. It's about earning it through demonstrated competence and character. It starts with that internal shift. Auditing your own language, am I being reactive or proactive? And consciously redirecting your energy away from blaming and complaining, and toward making value-based choices within your control. Proactivity is that daily commitment.
Okay, so if Habit 1 establishes that we are the driver, that we're responsible for our choices, then Habit 2, begin with the end in mind, seems to be about figuring out the destination. Where are we actually trying to go with all this proactive energy?
Exactly. It's about defining your vision, your purpose, your core values, your ultimate goals for your life. Habit 2 is based on the principle that all things are created twice.
So,
There's a mental or first creation and then a physical or second creation. Think about building a house. You don't just start hammering nails randomly, right?
hopefully not. You need a blueprint first.
Precisely. You need a detailed plan, a vision of the finished house. That's the mental creation. The actual construction is the physical creation. Habit 2 says we need to do the same for our lives. Before we rush into the construction, the daily actions, the career choices, the relationships, we need a clear blueprint, an end in mind.
And how do you develop that personal blueprint? The source has a pretty powerful, maybe even slightly morbid exercise for this, doesn't it?
It does. It famously asks you to visualize your own funeral, to deeply consider what you would want your loved ones, family, friends, colleagues to say about you. What kind of person would you want them to remember? What contributions? What character?
Wow. Yeah, that definitely forces you to beyond, next quarter's sales targets or getting that promotion. It's about legacy. It's about character over achievements alone.
Absolutely. It cuts through the noise and gets to the core of what truly matters to you. And emerging directly from this kind of deep reflection, the source outlines a very practical tool: writing a personal mission statement.
Okay, mission statement. That sounds a bit corporate, maybe?
It can sound that way, but the way Covey frames it, it's much deeper. It's not just a catchy slogan. It's meant to be like a personal constitution, a foundational document for your life that captures your core values, your purpose, your vision of who you want to be and what you want to do.
A personal constitution. I like that framing.
Yeah.
So let's talk about why actually writing it down is so important. What's the utility of having this written statement?
It serves as your ultimate standard, your compass. If it's clearly defined and internalized, it doesn't just sit in a drawer. It becomes a criterion you use to guide all your significant decisions, day-to-day choices, and long-term plans.
How does that work in practice?
Well, when you're faced with a choice, maybe a new job opportunity, how to spend your weekend, whether to take on a big commitment, how to respond in a difficult conversation, you filter it through your mission statement.
Like an instant check. Does this align with my core values? Does this move me closer to the person I want to be, the contributions I want to make?
Exactly. If the answer is consistently no, then even if the activity seems urgent or appealing on the surface, it's fundamentally a misdirection of your proactive energy. Habit 1. It's off course according to your own internal compass.
So without that mission statement, that defined end in mind, you could be incredibly busy, incredibly proactive, achieving lots of little things.
But you'd have absolutely no guarantee that you're actually moving towards something genuinely meaningful to you. You could be, as the saying goes, efficiently climbing the ladder, only to realize it's leaning against the wrong wall.
You're working off someone else's blueprint, maybe society's, your parents, the media's expectations.
Right. Habit 2 is about taking control of the blueprint itself, writing your own life script, using the freedom and responsibility established in Habit 1. And, importantly, this personal mission, this defined end, provides the essential criteria for the next habit, which is all about managing the journey, managing the climb.
Okay, so habit 1, you're the programmer. Habit 2, write the program, the mission. Now, habit 3, put first things first. This sounds like where the rubber really meets the road. It's the daily execution, the physical creation, based on the mental creation of habit 2.
Precisely. Habit 3 is the habit of personal management. It's about translating your vision and values into effective action. We're proactive, habit 1, we know where we want to go. Habit 2, now how do we actually organize and execute our time and energy to get there?
And the core challenge here, as the source emphasizes, is prioritizing based on importance, not just on urgency. That feels like a constant battle for most people.
It absolutely is, because urgency screams for attention, while importance often just whispers. Most people, the source suggests, live in a state of constant reaction, dealing primarily with things that are urgent, whether they're truly important or not. Habit 3 demands a shift. It asks us to manage our time based on the principles and long-term goals from Habit 2, rather than just reacting to the loudest noise or the nearest deadline.
Okay, and this is where we get that incredibly practical, famous tool, the time management matrix. Can you break that down for us? It's really central to understanding habit 3.
Definitely. It's a simple grid, but powerful. It divides activities into 4 quadrants based on 2 criteria: urgency and important.
Okay, lay out the quadrants.
All right. Quadrant A is urgent, A and D, important. The source calls this the quadrant of necessity. These are your crises, your pressing problems, genuine emergencies, projects with imminent deadlines. You have to deal with these. But living primarily here leads to stress, burnout, constant firefighting.
Right, the crisis manager mode.
Exactly. Then there's quadrant 3. This is urgent, but T, not important. This is the quadrant of deception. These things feel urgent, they demand attention now, but they don't actually contribute to your important goals.
What kinds of things fall here?
Lots of interruptions, many emails or phone calls, some meetings, responding to other people's minor priorities or poor planning. They keep you busy, but not necessarily effective towards your mission.
The busy work that feels productive but isn't really moving the needle on your goals.
That's a great way to put it. Next is quadrant 4. Not urgent and D, not important. The quadrant of waste. This is trivia, busy work, time wasters, maybe excessive relaxation or mindless scrolling. Things that provide neither value nor necessary renewal.
Okay, so avoid that one.
Definitely. And finally, the crucial one, quadrant 2. Not urgent, but T important. This is the quadrant of effectiveness or quality. This is where the truly effective people focus their time.
And what activities live in quadrant?
This is where the high-leverage activities reside. Proactive work, long-term planning, preparation, preventing problems before they happen, building relationships, identifying new opportunities, personal development, exercise, deep learning, and critically, sharpening the SAW Habit 7, which we'll get to.
Okay, so the big insight from the source material is that truly effective people consciously minimize time spent in 3rd and 4, they manage the necessary crises of I, but they proactively invest the majority of their time and energy in quadrant 2.
That's the goal. That's where real progress and capacity building happens.
But let's be real. How do you practically carve out time for quadrant 2? It feels like quadrant I crises are always exploding, and quadrant 3 interruptions are constant. Q2 often gets squeezed out.
That is the core challenge of Habit 3. The sources emphasize a few key strategies. First, you have to learn to say no, politely but firmly, to activities that aren't important to you, especially those deceptive Q3 tasks. This requires courage and clarity about your own priorities, from Habit 2.
Saying no to the urgent but unimportant. That's tough.
It is. It often means disappointing someone or resisting the pull of immediacy. Second, you need to proactively schedule your quadrant 2 activities. Don't just wait for free time to appear, it won't. You need to block out time for planning, for relationship building, for exercise, for strategic thinking, and treat those appointments with yourself as seriously as appointments with others.
So if your mission statement, Habit 2, emphasizes family, You don't just hope for quality time, you schedule it. You put it in the calendar before it gets crowded out by Q1 or Q3 noise.
Exactly. It's about managing yourself based on principles and importance, not just reacting to urgency. If you live only by urgency, you're letting circumstances or other people control your agenda, which violates habit 1, be proactive. Habit 3 is really the culmination of personal independence. It's where you demonstrate you can manage yourself effectively to achieve the mission you defined for yourself. You've achieved self-mastery in action.
Okay, so we've built that foundation. The private victories, habits 1, 2, and 3 give us self-mastery, a clear mission, and the discipline to execute. Now, the source says we're ready to move from independence.
To interdependence, exactly. This is where we shift focus outward to the public victories. Habits 4, 5, and 6. If you've developed the character and competence to trust yourself, private victories, you now have the foundation to reliably build trust and effectiveness with others.
And these public victories are all about how we interact, collaborate, and communicate.
Yes, they're about shifting our paradigm towards mutual benefit, deep understanding, and creative cooperation. They form the bedrock of successful, sustainable relationships, whether that's at work, in the community, or at home.
All right, let's start with habit 4. Think win-win. This phrase has definitely become, a bit of a corporate buzzword. But what's the deep principle the source material is really getting at? It's got to be more than just, like, being nice or compromising.
Yeah. Oh, much, much more. Being nice might be lose-win. You let the other person win to avoid conflict. Compromise often means both sides give something up, leading to lose-lose, or at best, a partial win for both. Win-win is fundamentally different. It's a mindset, a philosophy for human interaction.
A philosophy based on
Seeking mutual benefit in all interactions. It starts with a belief that there's enough for everybody, that one person's success doesn't have to come at the expense of someone else's. It's about striving for solutions and agreements that are mutually beneficial and mutually satisfying.
Okay, mutual benefit, mutual satisfaction. What's the explicit goal stated in the source?
The goal is long-term. It's about building trust, fostering cooperation, and ensuring fairness in a way that strengthens the relationship itself, rather than damaging it through competition or resentment. It sees life as a cooperative arena, not primarily a competitive one.
But I have to push back a little here, play devil's advocate. In the real world, isn't it sometimes just impossible to find a true win-win? Resources can be limited, goals can genuinely conflict. Doesn't the source address the risk of appearing naive or getting taken advantage of if you always insist on finding a mutual solution?
That's an excellent and very practical point. And yes, the sources address this head-on.
Mm-hmm.
Covey is pragmatic. He outlines several interaction paradigms. Win-lose, the authoritarian or competitive approach. I get my way, you don't. Lose-win, the doormat approach. Go ahead, have your way with me. Lose-lose, when two win-lose people interact, leading to conflict and mutual destruction. And just plain win, thinking only of your own goals without regard for others.
Okay, so win-win is one option among several. What happens if it's just not achievable?
This is crucial. The framework insists that if, after sincere effort, a truly synergistic solution that respects both parties' needs cannot be found, if the values or desired outcomes are fundamentally opposed, then the highest form of win-win thinking might actually be no deal.
No deal. As in, walk away. How does that strengthen the relationship? That sounds like failure.
It might seem counterintuitive, but think about it. Agreeing to no deal means saying, look, we value our relationship and we value our respective positions. We can't find a solution right now that truly works for both of us. So rather than force one of us into a losing position, which would damage our trust long term, let's agree not to proceed with this particular deal or decision right now.
Ah, okay. So you preserve the relationship by refusing to enter into a bad agreement.
Exactly. It maintains integrity, it communicates respect, it avoids the resentment that inevitably builds from a forced win-lose or a dissatisfying lose-win compromise. It keeps the door open for future win-win opportunities when circumstances might be different. So win-win isn't about being soft. It's about being principled, creative, and courageous enough to walk away if a truly mutual solution isn't possible.
So the real power of Habit 4 is that dual commitment.
Yeah.
First, the commitment to creatively seek that third alternative, that synergistic solution. And second, the integrity to choose no deal, if necessary, thereby protecting the long-term health of the relationship and what Covey calls the emotional bank account.
Precisely. That emotional bank account concept is vital here. Every interaction is either a deposit or a withdrawal. Courtesy, kindness, honesty, keeping commitments, those are deposits. Breaking trust, being unfair, disrespectful, listening, those are withdrawals. Win-win thinking consistently applied ensures you're making steady deposits, building the trust capital needed for effective interdependence.
Okay, building that trust capital leads perfectly into what might be the most transformative relationship habit of all, habit 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. The source is really clear that this one is rooted entirely in a specific kind of listening.
Yes, empathetic listening. And the distinction the source makes here is profound because it's so different from how most of us typically listen.
How do most of us listen, according to the source?
Most people listen with the intent to reply, not to understand. We're engaging in what the source calls autobiographical listening. We filter everything we hear through our own experiences, our own paradigms, our own motives.
So while someone is talking, we're, what? Preparing our rebuttal, thinking about our own similar story.
Exactly. The source identifies several levels of poor listening: ignoring, not really listening at all; pretending, yeah, right? Selective listening, hearing only parts; or attentive listening, paying attention to the words but still missing the deeper meaning because we're focused on our response. We jump straight to diagnosis and prescription.
Yeah, I recognize that. Someone starts telling you a problem and your brain is instantly formulating the solution, offering advice, often before they even finished explaining how they feel or see the situation.
Right, and the source insists that the very moment we project our own autobiography onto the other person, saying things like, "Oh, I know exactly how you feel, let me tell you what happened to me," or "You should just do this," we've fundamentally failed to understand them. We've shifted the focus back to ourselves.
So what does empathetic listening actually involve?
Empathetic listening is listening with the genuine intent to understand. It means getting inside the other person's frame of reference, seeing the world for a moment the way they see it, understanding their paradigm, their perspective, and crucially, understanding how they feel.
So it's not just hearing the words, it's grasping the meaning and the emotion behind them.
Yes.
Listening with your ears, eyes, and heart, as the source puts it.
Exactly. It involves paying attention to body language, tone of voice, and reflecting back not just the content, but the feeling you're sensing. So you're feeling really frustrated about this situation. It's about seeking clarity and understanding before seeking to be understood yourself.
Why is this order, understand first, so critical?
Because, as the sources confirm, this practice is the single biggest deposit you can make into the emotional bank account. It's the primary builder of trust and psychological safety in a relationship. Until the other person feels deeply, genuinely heard and understood, validated, even if you don't agree with their perspective, they simply won't be open to your perspective or advice.
Their defenses are up. They're not receptive.
Precisely. Any attempt you make to present your solution, explain your reasoning, or influence them will likely be met with resistance, overt or covert, because they don't feel you've respected or understood their reality first.
So connecting it back. If you want your team member to buy into your brilliant Quadrant 2 plan, Habit 3, you absolutely must first invest Quadrant 2 to time empathetically listening, Habit 5, to understand their quadrant pressures, their concerns, their viewpoint on the situation. It's the necessary prerequisite for influence.
It is. It ensures that communication becomes genuinely effective, not just two people talking past each other. By seeking first to understand, you build trust, you lower defenses, you gain accurate information, and you earn the moral authority, if you will, to then present your own viewpoint clearly and effectively, knowing the other person is much more likely to actually hear and consider it.
Okay, so Habit 4 sets the intention for mutual benefit. Win-win. Habit 5 builds the deep understanding and trust needed for it. Now, Habit 6, synergize. This sounds like where the magic happens, where that trust and understanding actually create something new.
That's a great way to think about it. Synergy is the habit of creative cooperation. It's about valuing the differences in others and working collaboratively to produce results that are far superior to what any single person could achieve alone.
The source uses that phrase, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Exactly. 1 + 1 = 3 or 10 or 100. It's about achieving breakthroughs. So if two people have different ideas or disagree on a strategy, the typical approaches are either compromise, both give something up, maybe 1 + 1, 1.5, or one person wins, win-lose, 1 + 1 = 1.
Right.
The synergistic approach, fueled by habits 4 and 5, isn't just to meet in the middle, it's to use the energy and insight from those different viewpoints, that very friction, to actually spark a third alternative, a new solution that's better, more creative, more effective than either of the original proposals.
That sounds amazing in principle. Creating solutions that are genuinely better, more innovative, more comprehensive. But it also sounds maybe a bit elusive. How do you actually make synergy happen? Does it require everyone to be geniuses?
Not at all about individual genius. The sources are clear that synergy isn't some mystical outcome that just happens. It's a principled process that requires specific conditions. Conditions built by mastering the previous habits.
Okay, what conditions are needed?
Fundamentally, three things. One, high trust and safety. You need that deep psychological safety established through empathetic listening, habit 5, and consistent win-win interactions, habit 4. People have to feel safe enough to express different, perhaps unpopular viewpoints without fear of judgment or ridicule. Differences must be welcomed, not shut down.
Okay, safety first.
Valuing differences. You need the genuine belief, rooted in habit 4's win-win mindset, that differences are assets, not liabilities. That someone seeing things differently from you isn't wrong, they just have a different perspective that might hold a piece of the puzzle you're missing. You have to respect their input.
See diversity of thought as a strength.
Precisely. And 3, humility. You need the humility to admit that your own perspective is inherently incomplete, that you don't have all the answers, that the best solution will likely emerge from combining your insights with the valid insights of others, even if they conflict initially.
So it requires letting go of the ego's need to be right or to win.
Absolutely. Synergy thrives in environments where people are open-minded, respectful, and committed to finding the best possible solution together, rather than just defending their own position.
So really, synergy is the ultimate payoff of mastering the public victories. It's where your self-mastery, independence from habits 1 to 3, effectively meets genuine collaboration, interdependence built by habits 4 to 5.
To generate something truly new and valuable, it's the practical application of principle-centered leadership and teamwork. It embodies the belief that by valuing differences and working together creatively, we can achieve results that were previously unimaginable. It's the third alternative engine.
All right, we've journeyed through the private victories, independence, and the public victories, interdependence. But the source makes it incredibly clear that none of this is sustainable without the final habit, habit 7, sharpen the saw. This is the one that keeps the whole system running effectively.
Yes, habit 7 is absolutely essential. It's the habit of self-renewal, self-care, continuous improvement. It's the principle of taking time. And this is a crucial quadrant 2 activity, by the way, to preserve and enhance the greatest asset you have, which is you.
The saw being the metaphor for ourselves, our capacity to perform.
Exactly. The story often told is of someone sawing down a tree, working harder and harder, getting exhausted, making less progress. When asked why they don't stop to sharpen the saw, they say, "I'm too busy sawing."
Right, the irony being that sharpening the saw would actually save time and energy in the long run.
Precisely. The sources make it crystal clear. Neglecting self-renewal, neglecting habit 7, means you're trying to operate with a dull instrument. You work much harder, achieve less, become less effective, and eventually you can burn out or break down, destroying the very asset yourself that makes all the other habits possible.
Okay, so habit 7 isn't just a nice to have. It's fundamental maintenance for effectiveness. And the source defines this renewal across 4 specific interconnected dimensions. We really need to break these down because they represent such a holistic view of what it means to be human. And let's be honest, they're often the first things we sacrifice when life gets busy.
That's absolutely true. They are deeply interconnected. Let's go through them. Hashtag, tag, the 4 dimensions of renewal. First, there's the physical dimension. This is about taking care of your physical body. The source highlights 3 core practices here. 1, sensible exercise. Regularly engaging in activities that build endurance, flexibility, and strength. Maintaining cardiovascular health. 2, proper nutrition. Eating healthy foods that provide energy and build health rather than deplete it. 3, adequate rest and stress management. Getting sufficient sleep, taking time for relaxation, managing stress effectively to allow the body and mind to repair and recover.
And the link to the other habits seems pretty direct here. If you neglect the physical dimension, you're constantly tired, maybe eating poorly.
Your energy levels plummet. Your ability to focus and concentrate, essential for habit 3 execution, weakens significantly. Your resilience to stress goes down, making it much harder to remain patient and empathetic, habit 5, or even proactive, habit 1, when things get tough. Physical fatigue directly degrades your character and competence.
You just don't have the physical capacity to be your best self.
Yeah.
Investment in the physical is investment in your overall resilience and capability.
Exactly. Okay, second dimension, the mental dimension.
This isn't just about being smart, right? How do the sources define mental renewal?
It's about continuous learning and expanding your mind, keeping it sharp, flexible, and growing. This includes activities like reading broadly and deeply, not just within your field. Writing, journaling, organizing, and planning, which connects back to habits 2 and 3, engaging in continuing education or skill development, seeking out new ideas and perspectives that challenge your current thinking, engaging in creative pursuits.
So this directly feeds the competence side of the effectiveness equation we talked about earlier. Scheduling time for mental renewal is classic quadrant 2. It's important for long-term growth, but rarely feels urgent.
Precisely. If you neglect your mental dimension, your thinking can become rigid. You might get stuck in old paradigms, stop learning, lose your intellectual curiosity. This makes it incredibly difficult to think win-win, habit 4, or synergize, habit 6, because you're less open to new ideas or different perspectives. Mental stagnation is the enemy of growth and creativity.
Okay. Physical, mental, what's the third?
The third is the social-emotional dimension. This is centered on our relationships and our feelings. Renewal here means consciously investing in our connections with others.
How do we do that, according to the source?
It involves making consistent deposits in the emotional bank accounts of key relationships. This means practicing empathetic listening, habit 5, showing genuine care and appreciation, maintaining integrity in our interactions, offering service or help to others without expecting immediate return, seeking to understand and value others, connecting to habits 4, 5, and 6. It's about nurturing our capacity for connection and compassion.
So this dimension is really the engine oil for the public victories. If our social and emotional reserves run dry because we haven't been renewing them,
We become irritable, impatient, self-centered. We're less capable of thinking win-win, less willing to seek first to understand, and synergy becomes impossible. Consistent investment here ensures we have the emotional bandwidth and relational capital needed to navigate challenges and build strong interdependence. We refill our well of empathy.
makes sense. And the fourth dimension.
The fourth is the spiritual dimension. And this isn't necessarily about organized religion, though it can be for some. It's about connecting to your core, your center, your value system.
The source defines it more broadly.
Yes, it's about clarifying and recommitting to your deepest values and purpose, connecting strongly to habit 2. It's about finding meaning beyond the day-to-day grind. Activities here could include things like spending time in nature, meditation or prayer, listening to inspiring music, reading inspirational literature, deep reflection on your personal mission statement, or engaging in service that aligns with your values.
This feels like the ultimate anchor. If habit 2 is writing the Constitution, spiritual renewal is regularly consulting it, making sure you're still aligned, drawing strength and direction from it.
That's a perfect way to put it. It provides the why behind your efforts. It fuels your commitment to living a principle-centered life, giving you the perspective and peace needed to navigate challenges without losing your way. It strengthens your character at the deepest level.
Okay, 4 dimensions: physical, mental, social, emotional, spiritual. And the crucial point the source makes is about their interdependence, right?
Absolutely critical. The sources stress that you cannot effectively sharpen the saw by focusing on only one dimension to the exclusion of others. They are deeply intertwined. Neglect in one area inevitably impacts the others.
Can you give an example?
Sure. If you're physically exhausted, neglecting the physical, your mental sharpness declines. Mental, you become more irritable and less patient, social emotional, and you might lose connection with your deeper purpose because you're just trying to survive. Spiritual.
Or if you're feeling spiritually disconnected or cynical, spiritual neglect.
Their motivation to learn, mental, or invest in relationships, social emotional, might suffer. And you might even neglect your physical health because what's the point?
So it's a holistic system. True, sustained effectiveness requires balanced, consistent attention to all 4 dimensions of renewal. You can't sprint in one area while letting the others atrophy. Eventually, the whole system breaks down. Habit 7 is about achieving that ongoing, balanced self-investment. Wow, okay, that's been a really comprehensive journey through this entire framework. From understanding that fundamental shift towards character ethics, through the steps of self-mastery, then mastering relationships, and finally sustaining it all. Let's try to quickly synthesize the structure one more time for everyone listening.
Sounds good. Basically, the flow is inside out. You start with the private victories. Habit 1, be proactive. Habit 2, begin with the end in mind. Habit 3, put first things first. These build character, self-control, and personal management, leading to independence.
Right. Master yourself first.
Then, from that foundation of independence, you move to the public victories. Habit 4, think win-win. Habit 5, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Habit 6, synergize. These are about effective communication, trust building, cooperation, and creative collaboration, leading to successful interdependence.
Working effectively with others.
And the entire system, both private and public effectiveness, is sustained and enhanced by Habit 7, Sharpen the Saw, continuous, balanced renewal in the four key dimensions: physical, mental, social, emotional, and spiritual.
Private leads to public, all sustained by renewal.
Got it. So if we pull back and look at the big picture, the key takeaways the source provides,
Yeah.
how does this framework ultimately define success? It seems quite different from just, getting rich or famous.
It's fundamentally different. True success, according to this principle-centered philosophy, isn't just about achieving external goals, although that can be part of it. It's defined by living a life of integrity.
Integrity meaning? Meaning your daily actions consistently align with your deepest held values and principles, the ones you clarified in your personal mission statement. Habit 2. It means your character is solid.
Okay. And it also involves.
It absolutely requires fostering those win-win relationships. Habit 4. True success isn't achieved at the expense of others. It involves ensuring that your competence and your ambitions serve a purpose that benefits not just you, but also strengthens collaboration and contributes positively to the lives of those around you. You build relationship capital, you don't just consume it.
So the real moment here, the thing the sources really drive home for you, the listener, is that lasting success isn't really about finding the next clever strategy or tweaking your personality.
No, it's much deeper and frankly maybe slower than that. It's about the deliberate, consistent, sometimes difficult work of developing your character, building integrity from the inside out, and mastering these fundamental habits of effectiveness. It's the power of incremental, principle-based growth, moving intentionally from dependence through independence all the way to effective interdependence.
It really shifts the focus, doesn't it? Away from what do I need to do to look successful towards who do I need to be internally to actually achieve sustainable, meaningful success.
That's the core shift. These habits aren't just techniques you pull out when you need a promotion or want to win an argument. They are principles you strive to embody consistently to live a more effective, fulfilled, and principle-centered life across the board.
Which brings us perfectly to our final thought for you, the listener, as you reflect on this deep dive. We've talked about effectiveness being this critical balance between character, your adherence to principles, and competence, your skills and abilities. And we know Habit 7, Sharpen the Saw, is the engine that sustains that balance across those four dimensions. So the provocative question, based only on what we've explored from the source material today, is this. Looking honestly at those four areas of self-renewal from Habit 7, the physical, the mental, the social, emotional, and the spiritual, which one is currently your weakest link? Where are you neglecting to sharpen the saw most consistently?
That's a tough question to ask yourself.
It is. And then take it one step further. How might that specific area of neglect be subtly, or maybe not so subtly, undermining your efforts elsewhere? Is it creating unexpected crises that keep pulling you back into Quadrant I firefighting? Is it perhaps slowing down or even preventing progress on the very personal mission, the end in mind that you defined back in Habit 2?
What's the connection between that weak link in renewal and your ability to live out your purpose?
Exactly. Think about that link, that potential bottleneck between your self-renewal habits and your ability to execute on what truly matters to you as you move forward from this conversation.